Breaking news here on CNN. That's just the Chimaev News Network, mind you. Uh, you know, Khamzat Chimaev versus Leon Edwards. Done deal. I guess it's not really breaking news because we knew it already, but we're going to say it's breaking news because this is the first time you and I are breaking it down. So it's important, right?
Yes.
Let's walk through this fight. Tell me your thoughts on this matchup. What do you think each guy's strengths are? How do you think it's going to go?
So we've spoken on the matchup before on this channel, and I think it was like on one of the post-fight shows recently that we did live, by the way. So subscribe to the channel and turn on those notifications for when we do go live immediately after fight cards. But yes, so this matchup, it's interesting, right? Because Chimaev is the definition of the hype train with the rocket strapped to his back right now in the UFC. In the UFC. And standing in his way, the UFC have placed in front of him against his will, or really they forced his hand to step in here, is one Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards, who is on an 8-fight win streak in the UFC's welterweight division and facing an opponent in Chimaev who has 1 win in the welterweight division in the UFC. 3rd fight, 3 fights in the UFC total. The matchup, when it comes to in terms of styles, is interesting because we've all seen Chimaev go out there and just ragdoll people in his wrestling. We've also seen a one-hitter quitter, literally one punch thrown in the fight and put Gerald Meerschaert out. So he's got the wrestling, he's got the power. However, on the flip side, Leon Edwards has been in there against championship level, former champions even, fighters. Right? He's been in there against Usman. He's been in there against RDA. Been in there against former title challengers, Donald Cerrone. Other hitters like Luque, right? And he's shut people like that down, with the exception of Usman. That's really the most interesting comparison as we kind of go into this. We'll get there. But what we've seen from Leon Edwards over the years is that he has a very interesting ability to make fighters not look great. He's really slick when it comes to his boxing. And he's also got really, really good takedown defense. And he's not terrible off of his back either. So he is the definition of a well-rounded fighter that makes other guys look bad. And just makes them look like not their greatest. And, that's kind of the argument that we see kind of float around, is that some guys are like, he fought Cerrone. Cerrone didn't look all that great that night. RDA didn't really look like he came to fight that night. Luque the same way. When it happens over and over and over and over 8 times in a row like that, there's a reason, and that reason is Leon Edwards and his skill imposing his will. So he is a very, very talented fighter, man, and this is a guy that should be absolutely fighting for that title, not fighting a guy who's only 3 fights in to the UFC. What is your take on this right now?
Yeah, I mean, you alluded to it. As I've mentioned on my Fight Business podcast, the fact that Leon Edwards is fighting Khamzat Chimaev is a brilliant business decision by the UFC to just pressure him by removing him from the rankings. And then the minute he took that fight, putting it back in. It's, again, morally, how you feel about it as a purist and a person that loves meritocracy. There are feelings I have about that, but from a business side, I'm also like, well done. You successfully got what you wanted. When you're looking at this matchup, I went back and looked through Chimaev's career, and there were a couple wins, on his career that don't really have full details on places like Topology. They just say win, and it says that this, but most of those are on Brave CF, right? So you can go find that information easily. And looking at that stuff, he's never been to the judges' scorecard. He's also never been to the 3rd round from what I've researched. So he's generally imposing his will, doing it fast. He has KOs at both 170 and 185. And he's got submissions all over the place as well. He's fought at 175 in some cases. Seems like, he's kind of all over the map in terms of what he's been able to do to other fighters in that weight range, 170 and 185. Anywhere in between, he seems to have been able to just dominate. But as you mentioned earlier, Leon Edwards is very good at making elite level fighters look bad. just looking straight up bad. In the, RDA fight, RDA, who is known for that type of striking battle, right? That's, a lot of people favored RDA in that matchup, thought this was going to be the style that was good for him to go up against. And Edwards just put on a clinic and made him look terrible, right? That's what Edwards is so good at doing. His last loss was to Kamaru Usman. We've talked about all the people that he's fought. His last loss was to Usman by unanimous decision. And Usman is clearly one of the best 170s, 70 pounders, in the division that we've seen in a long time, especially with that wrestling ability. He just shuts people down. So it's really hard to know here based on both Chimaev's lack of, big names and Edwards' lack of being challenged in the past 7 fights to know what it's going to look like. Because if the hype train is real, this is a big test for Edwards to see if he can shut that style down. Conversely, this might be the fight where all of a sudden Chimaev looks like trash because Edwards just is able to keep him where he wants him and keep the distance where he likes it, is able to just do what he wants. It's very hard. I mean, it also doesn't help that, as you mentioned, through Edwards' record, he's fought some big names, but outside of those big names, he has that 7-fight win streak has some not questionable names, so to speak, but not exactly elite level competition, right? And even RDA and Cerrone haven't done extremely well at welterweight throughout their welterweight careers. They've struggled in moving up. Both of our RDA is now going back down to 155, and Cerrone had to go back down to 155 where he found more success. So there are a lot of question marks here. I think it's a great matchup, and really it's going to be. I don't imagine it to be a great fight, if that makes sense. I imagine it to be probably within the first round, we're going to see which hype trade is real. Is it Chimaev is really all that and just like runs through a guy where Edward is a great test? Or is Edwards just going to shut him down within the first 5 minutes and you're going to say after round 1, oh, okay, this is going to be a decision? Or if Chimaev tires, right? We've never seen him into round 3. Maybe he gets tired. Maybe it ends up being some sort of stoppage for Edwards. He does have those. People forget he's stopped people before. So, it's, I don't expect it to be a great fight. I expect it to be the first 5 minutes, letting us know where each fighter stands.
That's a fantastic point, especially because we got to think about part of the reason this fight is coming together, right? Because the UFC obviously wants to move Chimaev up the ladder quickly. So a win over a Leon Edwards puts you in the title picture immediately, right? Your next fight is either a title shot or a number 1 contender fight.
Right.
For Leon Edwards, he has all but avoided, to no fault of his own, getting into that title picture, like getting to that title fight. 8-fight win streak, no title fight. Obviously he was supposed to fight Woodley earlier in the year. Pandemic happened and fight gets canceled. Right? In London, they're on the verge of another lockdown right now because the pandemic is raging again, which, I shout out to DC, on his show earlier this week with Ariel, he was pleading, Leon, get out of London right now. Get over to the States now before you get locked in and you can't get here, Very good point. I hope that doesn't happen to cancel this fight. Right. But as we were saying, it's important for Leon Edwards to not only get the win, and a boring fight is very possible here. And if it is boring, it's because Leon Edwards does what he did to Rafael dos Anjos. Shut him down over the course of that fight, but it wasn't particularly exciting. And if you are fighting a hype train like Chimaev, doing that to him is not going to be good in the eyes of the UFC. They're going to want to see you go out there and finish him. They're going to want to see you do something spectacular. I mean, if you go out there and get 10-8 rounds over him, I think that would be good. But if you go out there and put, trade 10-9 rounds here and there and you win by 1 round, that's not going to be enough, I don't think, to really convince the UFC that, yeah, all right, Leon, we're going to put you in the title fight now. Because you also got to think, how going back to the Kamaru Usman fight, how did that fight look? One judge gave it a 30-27 and it's 29-28. a typical Kamaru Usman fight. He grinded him out, got in, shot with the takedowns, got him to the mat. Leon got his way back up. Kamaru brought him right back down. And I really think that that's how this fight could play out. If you are a fan of Chimaev, you would kind of think that that's the route that he's going to take. You're going to go look at that game film. How did that look? How did it work out for Usman on that night? Let's try to do that. And then kind of compare the things that Usman did to the things that Gunnar Nelson tried to do, because that was a split decision fight. So you're going to take notes from those two fights and try to come up with a game plan to nullify what Leon Edwards does really well, which is pretty much everything, but particularly his boxing is what separates him from the rest of the competition for me, because he's really slick and he's not afraid to stand in the pocket. But he's that stick and move type of fighter that's really annoying to deal with, So it's going to be interesting to see how the Edwards camp views this fight, because in my opinion, I think they got to go out there and make a statement. Really put a stamp on this, say, hey, don't put me in here with a guy that's only 3 fights into this thing. I have rattled off 8 in a row for a reason. It's time to give me my title shot. So you got to go out there with statement fight in mind, but also understanding that you cannot lose this fight by any means, because kiss a title shot goodbye, right? He would probably have to win another 4 in a row against top 5 competition. Like, he'd literally have to fight number 5, 4, 3, 2 before he's going to number 1 contender fight even. That's just how the UFC views Leon Edwards, and it's unfortunate because he is such a talented fighter and he deserves that shot at the title. But hey, put him in there against a 3-0 guy in the UFC.
Yeah, it's one of those things where business trumps all in the UFC. I will say that till the day I die. And I think the UFC views Chimaev as a solution to 170, which has plagued them over the years, right? That Dana hated the way Tyron Woodley fought Damian Maia and Wonder Boy and so many other fighters. He loathed that. And since Woodley's been champion, right? You went from Robbie Lawler getting in crazy wars just all day, just being like, I have to watch the 170-pound division, to Woodley knocking Lawler out and then going through a lot of decisions. And that really irked White. And then you get Usman as the champion, who, again, he's a decision guy for the most part. He doesn't get a lot of finishes. He does that grinding style, especially against a striker he views as dangerous, that he goes to his wrestling. He tries to figure out ways to set up the wrestling and he grinds them out. So now you have another decision guy that wrestles a lot, which isn't exactly must watch for the casual fan. They just aren't going to care as much. Edwards is just another version of a striking guy who doesn't tend to get a lot of finishes. Again, he'll stick and move. He does boxing. So the UFC did offer Edwards a title fight, right, when Burns pulled out. But it was short notice. Edwards is, again, in London, halfway across the world. Oh, I got to fly to Abu Dhabi. Got to do all this. And he said no. I think that was probably the smart decision there, because, especially against a guy that's already beat you once, you need a full camp to try and make sure you really crack the code on that. So I get why I did that. But you're absolutely right that if he goes out there and does anything less than get a stoppage or just make Chimaev look just so bad, and I mean absolutely terrible, has to get 10-8 rounds like you're talking about, it's going to be viewed as okay, Chimaev wasn't the what we thought he was. It's not going to be, Edwards went out there and just styled on him and all that stuff. No, it's going to be viewed as like, Chimaev was what he thought he was. And he's going to have to win at least 1, maybe 2 more fights to get that title shot, I would imagine. He probably has to go through Masvidal. He probably has to go through, depending on how Wonder Boy and Neal goes, might have to go through the winner of that. But there is also a huge risk here that if he loses, as you mentioned, you say he might have to win another 4. That, yeah, it's probably true. But there's also, again, another person to point out is Wonder Boy, right? He lost to Woodley by majority decision pretty controversially. Not, necessarily controversially as in, it was clearly a robbery, but there was enough controversy there. People were saying it was either a draw or it was in Wonder Boy. I remember scoring it for Wonder Boy at the time, but I'm a Wonder Boy fan, so I have a little bias there. I'll admit that. Yeah, I'd have to rewatch it. It's been a while, but Um, but that all being said, right, look at where he went afterwards. He went to fight Darren Till and again lost that by decision. But then they put him in with Pettis, short notice, who really did nothing, was just pure risk for Wonder Boy. If he beats Pettis, that's not a huge win since that was Pettis's real step up at 170. And then Luque, which is okay. Again, another good fight, and he won, but now he's fighting Neal. And the fact of the matter is, I think the UFC doesn't want Wonder Boy to win because it's probably a lot of decisions and waiting and counter striking. And I think they probably view Edwards as the same way. So if he loses here, I think the ramifications are horrible for his career. I think it's at least 4 or 5 wins and over the course of probably a long time. Because my guess is the UFC, if he loses here, the UFC will just keep feeding him up and coming guys that are breaking into the top 10, 15 over and over until he wins enough that they say, okay, we have to give him somebody higher. So I think you're right. I think at this point, it's kind of a do or die fight for Edwards. It's very high risk, very low reward, unless he just goes out there and starches him. If you starch Chimaev, then you've got, your ticket punched to probably getting a title shot, especially given your background. Will he do that though? I think this fight, I don't know. I don't think that happens. What's your take on the fight?
It's tough, man. It's tough to call it, man, because one other factor that we really haven't touched on in terms of, figuring out how this fight's going to play out is the size difference, because he fights at 185, Chimaev. So how much is that going to come into play when you're talking about going in there and try to out wrestle somebody? Right? That's the thing that we got to keep in the back of our heads. And he's not necessarily a huge guy, but that plays a difference when you're trying to clinch with somebody. Right? Yeah. It's definitely going to be one of those game plans, man, where Edwards is going to have to do his best to just utilize his boxing and stay on his feet. Even though he is competent, when he is taken down, he can get back up. But you don't want to be in there against a guy like Chimaev, who has shown, at least against his opponents thus far, that he is very capable of getting you down and keeping you there. And when he's going to keep you there, he's going to try to do damage to you. Like, he's not there to hold you. He's there to do damage once he gets you down. So it's going to be really interesting to see how much that comes into play. But as much as I want to say that, obviously, going by every stretch of the imagination, Leon Edwards is way too much for Chimaev to chew right now, just because of his place in the division, what he's done in the division thus far against, like I mentioned earlier, current and former champions and championship contenders. But I won't be surprised if Chimaev goes out there and gets it done at the same time. It's just one of those matchups, man, because if Chimaev is able to do that, what he did to Meerschaert, if he's able to go out there and just land something crazy like that, it wouldn't shock me. But I would say it would still surprise me a little bit, because Edwards is just that good. And a lot of people are overlooking him, and it's just really unfortunate. Unless he, like you said, there's so many fights that he's had where it's just been decisions, and it's just been that like back and forth, picking you apart type of style. He does have, during this 8-fight win streak, he does have 2 finishes, one by ground and pound and one by rear naked choke, but those are both 3rd round finishes. So it's gonna be some time spent in this cage. But how does it look? Is it exciting? Are people being like, all right, yeah, he's better than Chimaev, or man, Chimaev could get him out of here this round? Like, how's it gonna look? How's it gonna play out? There's a lot of questions that we really aren't sure about. And it's one of those fights, man, where we're going to have to watch it play out. But coming in, me as an analyst, looking at it from the analyst, like if I got my analyst hat on backwards right now, like I do, I'm rocking with everything that says Leon Edwards is the guy that's going to say, hey, this is what it's like up here, buddy. So it's tough to call, man. But,
yeah,
it's tough. It's tough at the end of the day.
It's real tough. I'm with you. And again, I really think it's one of those things where, if I'm betting on this fight, right? I know odds have been all over the place. Right now, I just looked at it. It looks like Chimaev is sitting as the favorite, negative 170. Yeah, which is
170 now. Jesus.
Yeah. And my guess is that closer to fight day, that probably only goes deeper. I maybe it tightens up. You might get some money coming in late on Edwards, but I would still imagine Chimaev ends up being the favorite. So if I'm betting on this, it's hard not to put money on Edwards as the underdog, especially given his resume and given what he's been able to do. Although I would say now that they do live in round betting, I feel like the easiest way to do that is watch the first few minutes of the fight and then place your bet, in that nature. Because if it gets out of round one, then I think it's going to be, again, pretty clear who's got the upper hand and what the rest of the fight's going to look like. And I don't see it being a back and forth. I feel like it's either going to be a Edwards decision or a late round stoppage if Chimaev does gas out in later rounds, because he hasn't actually been there. He might have a cardio issue. It's really not known, right? So could totally happen. Otherwise, I think it's going to be just another mauling by Chimaev, right? I think he's going to be bigger, stronger, wrestle him down, land a bunch of ground and pound. And I think in that situation, I think he either finishes it or he gets a clear decision where he's just ragdolling Edwards every which way for 5 rounds.
100%.
Yeah, I think that's what we're looking at. And so I guess I personally, for my pick, I got to roll with the man paying our bills. I got to go Chimaev. I'm sorry. I love you, Edwards. I love you. And I won't be surprised if you win this, but this is the Chimaev News Network. So
hey, it's CNN, baby. We got to do what we got to do. But one thing I want to add on to the betting thing, since that is a very, very important thing coming into this fight. I mentioned on previous videos that MMA fans have been creating ridiculous value for underdogs in this sport for decades, right? And this so far is one of those fights. Being right isn't necessarily the most important thing 100% of the time when you're betting, right? You have to find the value. And the value is ridiculous with Leon Edwards being an underdog in this fight. So whatever plus money, if you're a betting man, I'm not giving you betting advice, but this is what I would do. If I were placing my bets and I see Leon Edwards at plus money coming into this fight, anything, if he ever gets over plus 200, I'm putting money down, because the guy is on an 8-fight win streak and should be fighting for his title right now. It's just ridiculous value. Even if I lose money on the night, I'm good with that, knowing that I put my money where the best value is, if that makes sense to people. All right. If I got $100, I'm very confident in putting it on Leon Edwards at plus 200, if I can get that number. Even if Chimaev goes out there and starches him in one round and be like, all right, hey, Chimaev proved it. He's that dude. But the value is in Leon Edwards at plus money.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? Like that. If you're looking for value, and again, we're not legally, we're not soliciting, betting advice, doing any of that stuff. We don't bet. That's not a thing we do around here. If you know my analysis article, it's called Shitty MMA Analysis. I'm not great at this part of the at this part of the process. So we're not giving you betting advice. But I will say, again, I'm with you 100% in terms of where the value would be. In my mind, is Edwards all day, because he has the resume to back it up. Yes, Chimaev could be the real deal, comes out there and just boom, does it. But based on the record, based on the opponents, based on the way they've looked in the octagon, I would definitely, if I'm looking for value, it's all on Edwards as an underdog. Plus 200 would be great, but even Edwards as any sort of underdog is some value, in my opinion. So, we'll see what happens here, and we'll see how it goes. But it's a crazy time, man. Anything could happen. This could be the rise of Chimaev. This could be the end, and we could be switching to Rocky News Network here, RNN, right? So
right, yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Take the name of our channel is at stake here. No, but this also could be, like I mentioned earlier, man. This fight could end up sucking, being just a boring decision. And in the co-main right before it, you got Wonder Boy versus Jeff Neal. So if Jeff Neal goes out there and starches Wonder Boy in 30 seconds, could be looking at a jump in the line. Could be. Could be. Not out of the realm of impossibility, you know. So just something to keep in mind there, people.
Yeah, just keep it in mind. And my final thought, now that you brought that up, is regardless of how those respective fights play out, I really want to see Jeff Neal versus Khamzat Chimaev. I think that's a amazing fight, no matter what happens.
So. Yes, I'm in on that. We have to see that before both of their careers are over, one way or the other. It has to happen.
Yep,
it has to happen. Absolutely. But I am curious to everybody watching, man. Let us know in the comments who you're picking in this fight and how you think it's going to play out. Is it going to be a finish or a decision?
Yep.
I'm curious.
Let us know with hashtag CNN, hashtag RN, and that's what we're gonna that's what we'll go with. There you go.